So this was announced the other day. I noticed this on the ED92 Twitter account, which is a Twitter account all about the Disneyland Paris photos and that kind of stuff. And it just gives you some news sometimes as well. So it's good to stay up to date with that if you're interested in Disneyland Paris. And they announced that the Indiana Jones et le Temple du Péril, the Temple of Peril, will close on September the 2nd for a lengthy refurbishment that will last for the rest of 2019 at least, so it could even be longer. I was back at Disneyland Paris in May, where I got to ride all the roller coasters again, of course, and this is one of the original roller coasters. I think this opened the year after the park opened in 1992. I think 1993 it opens. The first time I was at Disneyland Paris was actually in 1983, so I only have a recollection of this being there. I can't imagine really the park without it, of course, but the first year it operated was without Indiana Jones. Riding it back again in May, I must say I found it quite rough. I found it felt like the trains were sort of grinding on the tracks. It didn't feel like the wheels were happy about it or something like that. I mean, there was no lack of speed or anything, but it just felt quite rough, I have to say. Loopings.nl also took this article a couple of days ago, and they actually, if you read this, it's in all Dutch, but if you read this, it's actually mentioned that Indiana Jones was closed the end of 2018 as well. And someone else on Twitter also said several years ago it was also closed. Well, of course, all these roller coasters will need some kind of maintenance, and Disneyland Paris is open the entire year, so that makes it hard to obviously do that out of season. There is no out of season, so there's going to be times when these rides are out of commission. But it is quite surprising that I imagine that this is something that's just come up, that this was not really planned. So maybe they found that there's a problem or something like that, because I can't imagine that this was planned alongside of Rock and Roller Coaster being closed, because of course that is closing the 1st of September, or the 2nd. We can have a look here. So today you can see there's quite a few rides also out of commission. The railroad is still not up and running, but if you go forward to like the 2nd of September, you can see that Indiana Jones is listed as closed, and Rock and Roller Coaster will be closed as well. There's just quite a few rides closed. I'm really surprised. I mean, if you think about it, when I was there, Autopia was closed, so I never got back on that. I'm sure that's been closed before when I've been to Disneyland Paris. I went a lot between 2002 and 2009, and that was just closed a lot from what I remember. I think I went like 5 times in those years, so I'm sure like 2 or 3 of the times it was closed and never got on that car ride. It's not really my favorite, but it's just, it's one of the few rides left in Discoveryland that, of course, is kind of themed to Discoveryland, because now they've got Hyperspace Mountain. That's got nothing really to do with that Jules Verne theming, even though it's inside of the Space Mountain building. You got Buzz Lightyear doesn't really suit that anymore, because all those IPs are moving to the Walt Disney Studios Park, of course. And then, of course, they reopened Star Tours there. I find it really weird because, Autopia is then closed, and the Mystery of the Nautilus is closed as well, which is just a sort of walk-through submarine thing. And, of course, the railroad is closed as well in Discoveryland. So, it's really bizarre that there's just so much going on at this park. And of course, the Walt Disney Studios Park is getting quite a big makeover. So Aerosmith is closed. Earlier on this year, Armageddon closed. And then we've still got the Cars Rally ride is closed. The Art of Disney Animation is closed, which is when you just enter the actual Walt Disney Park outside of the big indoor section. This sort of looks shaped like a studio. So when you enter the main park, the plaza. It's straight towards the right of you. That whole section is completely closed, so it's, you know, when you face the park. So it doesn't look good. I mean, I don't think the Walt Disney Studios Park deserves to be in. I think it was like number 6 or 7 of best parks in Europe, voted by TripAdvisor. I don't think it deserves that at all. I was really disappointed with the park, the way it looks. The whole parade route has been broken up. When you look at the floor, the tiles look terrible. But anyway, it's always I was going to talk about Indiana Jones mostly, but it just, I'm surprised that it's closing at the same time as Aerosmith. And like I said, it must be something that's come up. It must be something that after an investigation they found that the roller coaster isn't, there's something problematic with it and it needs to close very soon. So that's, I'm sure, why that's happening. The only good thing that might come out of this, I don't know if that would happen, but of course when I went to Disneyland Paris back in, I think it was 2002, 2003 and all that, the Indiana Jones ride, they're saying it here, between 2000 and 2004 it went backwards. They put the trains back on and they were facing the other way. And so the roller coaster was going backwards, and that was really cool. I actually preferred that. I just remember riding it over and over again in the evenings. It's open till 11 o'clock at night, of course, the park. And I was staying a couple of days, and it was just awesome. So maybe they'll put the trains backwards again. Is that a possibility? I don't know. But it must be really frustrating if you've booked to go to Disneyland Paris. And of course, you might have been aware of a Rock and Roller Coaster being out of commission, if you've booked later on this year. And then you find out that this roller coaster is out of commission too. Well, that just would really suck, because of course, you're only going to be left with Hyperspace Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain, and in the Walt Disney Studios Park, you've got RC Racer. It's not really a roller coaster in my opinion. I mean, it is, but it's a very different type of ride. And of course you do have Crush's Coaster, which just gets an enormous queue if you don't ride it early on in the morning or something like that. So it's it's a little bit disappointing, I would say, in that sense. Of course, with the refurbishments going on at the Walt Disney Studios Park, the addition of a Frozen Land, more stuff with Marvel, of course, Rock and Roller Coaster is being turned into an Iron Man roller coaster. We know that. I personally hope that they're going to do some track work. I found the corkscrew unbearable almost on Rock and Roller Coaster when I went on there in May. It was disappointing. The launch is still awesome. It took my breath away. I remember that launch it felt more intense than the one at Platform 13 at Wallaby Holland. Maybe because the whole ride is enclosed, I don't know, but it just felt... Whoa, it really took my breath away. And that's surprising, because I've done quite a few launch coasters since then that I hadn't done before I ever rode Rock and Roller Coaster the first time. So, but I was still surprised by how much, how intense the launch is. It's good. So that will remain good, I would imagine, for the Iron Man ride. But I just hope to do some work on the corkscrew, and that we don't just get new vests and new trains. They'll do some more stuff with that, because it would give the roller coaster a bit more lease of life. I found that Space Mountain as well was quite rough in the actual corkscrew that's on that ride. So it's surprising, and that one has got a newer train. I believe it definitely has new vests, new restraints, and that they're a lot more comfortable than the ones that are very close to your head, of course. But in any case, it's a little bit disappointing to hear this. I mean, I'm not going out there for a long time. I mean, the next time I'll be out there will be probably when all this extra stuff has been built in the Walt Disney Studios Park, which is going to be the Frozen Land, the Marvel stuff. And they're talking about the Star Wars, like a sort of cut down version of Galaxy's Edge, I believe, from Star Wars. I'm not sure that's still going to go ahead. I'll maybe do some more videos about this later on in the rest of the year, because the I believe that the attendance figures are just not that great. I did a video about that a couple of days ago, if you want to look that up. And that's the attendance figures at Disneyland in Anaheim, of course. And I think they're a bit disappointed with the fact that, you know, they built this massive $1 billion thing for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but it's just not attracting a lot of sponsors. But at the same time, their prices are so high, so it could be that. I don't know, the entry is very high, $150 over the summer to get in there, so it could be that as well. Who knows? But I just don't know if that Star Wars stuff is going to, I think it's going to depend on the success of Episode 9. If it's a massive success, I'm sure they'll want to do more with rides and things like that, and in their theme parks. But if that is not a success, a lot of people are disappointed with Episode 8. I was quite a bit as well, to be honest. I don't really like the direction of the main characters in those movies. And I guess if Episode 9 is a great finale, then maybe there'll be more Star Wars. If not, maybe there'll be less, in which case I think the Paris park, the Studios Park in Paris, would be the first to feel that brunt of that, which could mean that Star Wars will just not happen over there. Who knows, the whole Star Wars land. But that's a topic of discussion for the other time. In the meantime, all we know is that there's just going to be less opportunity to ride roller coasters at Disneyland Paris, which is a little bit disappointing. Like I said, I'm sure there's a need for this. You know, it's just, I've mentioned this before, I think there's just a lack of expansion in the new park. So, you know, with that being out of commission, you literally only have the Pirates of the Caribbean left in Adventureland. There's a few other things you can see in Adventureland. Of course, the Skull Rock. You can go up the Robinson Crusoe tree thing and all that. But there's just not really a lot left to do if one of the rides closes there. If Pirates of the Caribbean then closes when this is out of commission, whether it's for a breakdown or for a day or whatever, it's just, you've not got anything left in that lands. And that's why I'm just a little bit surprised that there's just so many things out of commission at the moment at Disneyland Paris in both parks. Like I said, it's just one of those things I've kept in mind, and that's why it's going to be several years before I go back, I think, because it's just, I don't know, at the moment it just doesn't, there's just too much being refurbished and just a lack of new rides. Getting on the Ratatouille ride back in May was awesome. I absolutely loved that. Back on Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, that was awesome as well. But yeah, I was disappointed with Rock and Roller Coaster. It used to be my favorite ride, and in fact one of my favorite roller coasters anywhere. But I just found with the roughness of the corkscrew especially, that really ruined a lot of enjoyment for me. So I hope they address that when it becomes an Iron Man ride. I still can't see the Iron Man theming being as exciting as hearing Aerosmith music and all that. Having said that, Iron Man, the first couple of movies, did feature a lot of AC/DC music, so who knows, maybe they'll combine that, or maybe it's going to be the soundtrack of Iron Man. I'm not sure, the actual instrumental music, of course. We'll see what happens with that. But I just thought I'd point this out and give you my thoughts about the closure of Indiana Jones in the meantime. And it'll reopen again, I'm sure, early next year after some maintenance and maybe some track replacement. Who knows? I hope it's going to be a better experience than I had back in May, that's for sure. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today in today's video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.